Welcome to this week's OK at Work with myself, Sarah Sawyer, and my colleague, Russell Berger, both attorneys at Offit Kurman. And today we're talking about paid time off, PTO, vacation, sick leave, sometimes looped in there as well. But talking a little bit today, just kind of about things to consider when you're implementing a policy or when you're changing a policy. Because the rules that you set for when you provide leave and when employees earn leave are, those rules are really important. And then when you go to change them, there might be some unintended consequences around that. So what are some things that employers should consider in that regard, Russell?
Yeah, a couple of things, and I'll speak to Maryland's rules. I mean, different states have different variations of this, and some of them are kind of opposite or quite different. Um, Under Maryland law, the baseline starting point is that PTO does not need to be paid out at termination if you tell the employee that it will not be paid out at termination, and they fall into kind of whatever the parameters are for it not being paid out. So to say that differently, if you don't say anything at all in Maryland, you are going to have to pay out the employee accrued but unused PTO at termination. So as a starting point, that's an initial question that definitely should be asked, and you should be thoughtful about in the way you craft your policy. Um, Another more general point that I want to make with it is that once you set your policies, you set the conditions, and the PTO is earned, those conditions stay attached to that PTO. So you can't say, well, it was paid out before, it'd be paid out at termination, but now I'm going to change it after the fact, after you've already earned it. That's not going to fly. It's got to be proactive, prospective. In fact, the payout at termination law actually says at the time of hire, and there's some nuance to that could be arguable, but for the sake of this conversation, talking about other facets of PTO, it should be at the onset of the policy. You want to be real thoughtful about the conditions you put on it, how much carryover, other things of that nature, because those conditions are going to stay with it until the employee uses it or the employee their employment ends.
Yeah, and one of the reasons this becomes such a big deal is that because the reasons that these rules exist is that because PTO is considered wages in Maryland and in a lot of states. So it really, just like if you were going to tell someone, all right, go work an hour for me, I'm going to pay you, $15 to do that. You can't then after they work that hour say, well, actually, I'm only going to pay you 10. So it's kind of that same type of principle when it comes to benefits at PTO, those types of things. So that's part of the reason that this becomes an issue is that those same types of rules apply, and people aren't always, employers aren't always thinking of it in that way, even though obviously you pay someone for PTO. Don't think about it in the same way you think about that hourly wage example, even though they actually are in sync in a lot of ways. And I will say that, while we're talking about Maryland here, there is nuance state by state, just always the case. But often I'll say that in a lot of the states that we have clients in or that we look at in our practice, I see very similar rules to this, especially as it relates to the policy dictating what governs the leave that's been earned. So a lot of states won't have strict rules on whether you have to provide PTO. They might have rules where you have to provide sick time or something specific, but some states don't have any of that. But they still will have rules around, well, your policy is going to govern what you tell the employees, what's going to apply. And so even in those states where the rules are a little bit more lax or there's not as many stringent requirements as relates to like sick time or anything like that, you still might have those issues.
Yeah, I mean, again, like a lot of things, it's important to be thoughtful, and it's not just a throwaway section in your handbook. It's something to be thought through and strategized on.
Yeah, and made sure that it's accurate with what you're actually doing.
That's right.
Always key, right? Well, thanks, Russell, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, Sarah.